The City of Vancouver has approved a comprehensive zero-waste strategic plan. It includes a total ban on the distribution of plastic straws.
Lately, there's been a buzz around certain parts of the country about banning the use of plastic straws. Why? A frequently repeated claim is that Americans use 500 million straws a day. Most don't know that claim comes from a boy, Milo Cress, who conducted a phone survey of straw manufacturers when he was 9 years old. Meanwhile, we graduate kids from high school who don't know what country Hitler was from, so forgive me if I suspect this little bedwetter might have somehow fudged the math. There's a mass of plastic out in the Pacific Ocean called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch that gets press every now and then. Some 80,000 metric tons of plastic waste.
Did I do that?
No, not really. OceanConservancy.org reports that more than half of that comes from China, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines. In fact, the US is among the world leaders in plastic collection rates and lowest plastic waste leakage rates. And half of the consistency of the garbage patch is made up of fishing nets, which are actually what harms sea life. Not the as high as 0.025%, which might be made up of plastic straws. So what if 500 million straws a day were accurate? Does my drinking a Shamrock Shake with a straw mean it will end up in the ocean? No. Unless I throw it into the ocean myself, plastic straws are too small to recycle. We don't even export them for recycling like we do other plastic waste, so they go to landfills instead. So where do you think all the straws in the ocean come from?
China.
Plastic pollution scientists acknowledge that it is largely China's problem, contributing to 28% of all mismanaged plastic. If you think because Western countries make the most plastic that we must be responsible for it ending up in the ocean, whilst many countries across Europe and North America had high rates of per capita plastic generation, once corrected for waste management, their contribution to mismanaged waste at risk of ocean pollution is significantly lower. Apparently, the recent interest in a straw ban began with a video of a sea turtle with a straw up its nose. We all know that this sea turtle was probably up all night doing lines and had a cocaine-fueled rampage, and in a fit of adrenaline pounded his face into the mirror, and that's how it got up there. But he's pled the fifth, and now we all gotta suffer the consequences. But if any plastic straw used by an American ending up in the ocean means that 327 million Americans have to change how they live to prevent it, what would that look like? Paper straws? EcoCycle is pushing for no disposable straws, even compostable paper ones. I checked out the website and it read like the kind of lunacy you only achieve when your head is stuck completely up your own ass. Sure, plastic straws are bad. No, we can't have paper ones either? Well, I accidentally went to a restaurant today that gave me a paper straw at my Shirley Temple, and I've been carrying it around with me all day not knowing how to properly dispose of it. Do you know where I can compost it? Oh wow, a list of paper composting facilities near me. I'll make sure to go visit one after I stick my head in this oven. Marcus Erickson, an environmental scientist and activist for Five Gyres, says, "One goal for advocacy organizations is to make that single-use culture taboo, the same way smoking in public is taboo. I think what we need to make taboo is calling yourself an environmentalist." Why? Like feminism, environmentalism once began as a benevolent cause aimed at educating society about the damage being done to our planet in hopes that people would demand change from our companies and institutions. Now what it means to be an environmentalist is to insist that solar and wind energy alone can sustain a population of 327 million Americans, banning nuclear energy despite it being the most promising way of replacing fossil fuels with no environmental impact. We need to get rid of all cars, airplanes, and cow farts, or global warming will destroy the Earth in 10 years. And that we must stop having children, because by even existing at all, those children will destroy the planet. So today it's straws, tomorrow it's beef, and by the weekend, they're coming to give you a vasectomy. You can see the difference in the youngest generation's attitudes about the environment, and it's plain to see why. My generation was taught that Social Security was not going to be around by the time we were old enough to collect it. This generation was taught that the planet wasn't going to be around by the time they graduated high school. So what can and should be done? Cultural attitudes change over time. Attitudes about the environment have changed. Climate change has more support now than ever. Fewer people litter, and more people recycle than ever before. We may disagree about how best to combat climate change, but investments have been made into wind and solar energy. Cars now are much more fuel efficient, and as fewer old cars are on the road, the carbon emissions from them are shrinking, even at a time when the population is growing and becoming more prosperous. Arguments about what can and should be done to help the environment frequently fall alongside personal preferences. And so people from the straw ban side of the debate are likely people who didn't care to use straws already. The problem is that telling others and using the government to enact laws to force others to live the way they do is fundamentally un-American. Ours is a country based on freedom, liberty, and individualism. The personal sacrifices I make for the environment are mine to choose, just as I will attempt to force my personal sacrifices upon others. Personally, I'd love to see plastic bottles be replaced by the infinitely more recyclable aluminum cans. Recycling these materials is an industrial process that create waste and CO2, and aluminum is much less costly to recycle than plastic. Right now, there are straw bans in Vancouver, Canada. A proposed ban in the EU would affect its 28 member countries. A ban in England takes effect in 2020, and the Queen banned them from events at her palace, which is bad news for McDonald's, which is frequently contracted to do catering there. California has a state law that businesses can only offer straws to customers who request them, but more stringent bans have been passed in Santa Cruz, Alameda, Malibu, Davis, and San Luis Obispo. Santa Barbara recently walked back a law that gave actual jail time to servers who provided a customer with a straw who didn't ask for one. New York City, of course, has a straw ban, and Miami Beach and Fort Myers, Florida have straw bans. But Republican Governor Ron DeSantis recently vetoed legislation that would have prevented any municipalities in Florida from being able to enact their own straw bans. Why? Because of federalism. Those towns are free to ban things according to the preferences of the people who live, vote, and govern those places. If a town wants to ban plastic straws or insist that everyone wear name tags, the right to govern itself should be pushed down to the most local level possible. But the fear now isn't that many places will have their own straw bans, it's that the next step is a federal law, so that no matter where you live and how voters there feel about plastic straws, the choice is taken away from you. Libertarians are glee to suggest there will be a plastic straw black market, to invest now even. But the reality is that people don't obey unjust laws, and criminalizing ordinary things that people enjoy will make criminals of us all. So before you get on board with the straw ban, or dismiss the issue as something that will go away on its own, ask yourself, do we really need to organize thousands of people to march on Washington just to keep something so ordinary as plastic straws? Jenny, could you tell us why anybody would want to use a plastic straw?
There are many sanitary reasons you might want to use a straw. In a bar or restaurant where you get a beverage in glassware, you can't be certain of the cleanliness of that glassware. As bartenders, we had 3 sinks: wash, rinse, and disinfect. And on a busy or lazy night, that glassware might have spent a grand total of a microsecond combined in all 3. If you've ever been served a drink with the last user's lipstick print on it, you know what I mean. Even at a fast food restaurant, being handed a plastic or paper disposable cup, the rim of that cup may have been handled by someone who was handling food, money, or both. And due to the amount of spills that happen behind the counter, it's rather likely that something is splashed onto that stack of cups destined for your lips. If you drink from the lip of any cup, you are more likely to spill it, even more than a strawed cup without a lid. Why? Because when you drink from the lip, you have to tilt the cup to a sufficient degree that the liquid inside passes over the lip of the cup. And if you're disabled, drinking alcohol, or have drunk so much alcohol that you've become disabled, the chances of you spilling it all over yourself increase dramatically. Drinking a refreshing beverage while driving also increases your risk of spilling, not to mention tilting your head takes your eyes off the road. Straws also stir drinks as well, combining sugar and cream in a coffee, or stirring the melted ice in a cocktail. If you're uncomfortable at a bar, you can chew on your straw to alleviate anxiety. Do that with a metal or glass straw that is being offered to you as an alternative to plastic, and you'll experience the environmental satisfaction of visiting your dentist. Drinks actually taste better with straws. I'll link to an article in the description that explains why better than I can. Suffice to say that as opposed to paper straws, plastic is tasteless, and no beverage tastes better with a hint of paper pulp. Some beverages like coffee, colas, and red wine stain your teeth, and drinking them through a straw decreases the likelihood of such staining. And some beverages with natural or artificial coloring stain the skin, so drinking them without a straw can make you look like Ronald McDonald. And just to pull out my old grievance card that I found on a bus one day, a straw ban privileges people who prefer certain categories of drinks over others. Coffee drinkers don't need straws, but Frappuccino drinkers do. Beer, wine, and whiskey drinkers don't need straws, but their designated drivers do for their sad, unsweetened iced teas and Diet Cokes. People who drink energy drinks don't, but for mixed drinks, much preferred by women than men, you do.
I guess you might say, I'm a straw man. And educating people about the problems we create for our environment is important. But in so doing, we need to make sure that we have good facts, that we have perspective, and we don't repeat a bunch of bad science to push policy goals that won't actually help. And have you heard straw activists are trying to ban the straw emojis? Thanks for checking out our channel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this with anyone you know who cares about the plastic straw debate. You can listen for our podcast next weekend where we talk more about plastic straws, soon to be available on iTunes and Stitcher. And a new episode will be out fresh for you the following week. Be sure to follow us on social media. The links are in the description.